What is up? Welcome back. Vendetta Sports Media 2024-25 NBA season previews. I'm with Jackson Law. My name is Matt Hanifan. Today we're going to be doing the Chicago Bulls, the ever so exciting, perpetually mediocre Chicago Bulls. They picked a direction, I guess, to some extent this offseason. DeMar DeRozan is no longer there. They traded Alex Caruso for Josh Giddey, which I think is an inexplicable trade. We'll get into that though. But first off, Jackson, how are you doing, my man?
I'm doing great, man. It's been a long time since I've done stuff on this like YouTube channel and everything. But now, like, second year teaching, things are a bit easier, much more calm of a year. So expect, whether you like it or not, expect to see me around more involved this year.
What grade are you teaching, if you don't mind me asking?
It's a small school, so it's like I teach as low as 7th grade and all the way up to seniors.
Okay.
And a variety of subjects.
Okay.
So multiple hats.
Okay.
All backwards because of Cowherd.
Yeah. Listen, I have it on right now. Apparently I can't say shit or do whatever or look professional or whatever, even though I wear a backwards cap. I started doing this in college, and like really, I mean, obviously a journalism professor or a journalism student, like somewhat, they want you to be somewhat professional, like to some extent, especially when you're in a professional setting. I never did this in a professional setting, obviously. So like whenever I would do this in class, like no one gave a shit. So I don't know why he gives a shit. Anyways, that's neither here nor there. The Chicago Bulls, 39-43 last year. This team stunk. Kobe White was good.
Yeah.
But for all intents and purposes, this team stunk. Zach LaVine missed a bunch of the season with an injury. DeMar DeRozan led the league in minutes, and I think you want to say he's entering his age 35 season, somewhere around there. His game is kind of aging like fine wine, but he wanted $40 million in the offseason. That obviously didn't happen. They traded Alex Caruso for Josh Giddey, which I still can't believe actually happened. I don't know the thought process behind Chicago not trying to get one of their 100 million first round picks.
Yeah.
Like,
was it just
any single one of them?
Was it just straight up? Like,
yeah.
I looked it up earlier. Yeah, I didn't see any picks with it. Yeah.
One of the more rare 1-for-1 trades that, because usually it's a player going out in a deal and you get like, a second round pick or a couple second round picks or whatever the case is, or like maybe a player and a pick or something like that. You don't just get a straight 1-for-1 swap nowadays. And that was one where I was like, okay, I was just waiting for like the actual draft compensation to be announced. That didn't happen. They added a couple more guys this offseason: Jalen Smith, Taylor Horton-Tucker. They got Chris Duarte in the DeRozan sign-in trade. They drafted Buzelis, who I know is a polarizing prospect even here at Vendetta. So Jackson, like, what are your thoughts from last season, this offseason, and kind of like what they did?
Yeah, you mentioned that they've sort of chosen a direction, and that direction is just down straight to the depths of basketball hell, where they are going to dwell for as long as they continue to hold on to what they have right now. They are a 30-win team, probably at like their very height, and they're 26 million over the salary cap. So
isn't everyone over the salary cap though? Like, to be fair, for like all
like some people, yeah. But if you want to know, like, for instance, OKC, we'll bring them up again because of the Caruso and Giddey trade. The Bulls have more money on their salary than the Thunder do. And the Thunder are going to be competing for a top spot in the West and are going to be one of the early favorites to even go all the way to the NBA Finals. It's just it's a night and day difference between those two organizations. And I just, as a Chicago fan, how do you support this team right now? They continue to hold on to players for way too long. 2-3 years ago, we knew that this team wasn't really going anywhere. They make questionable decisions, always making polarizing picks. The Patrick Williams pick a few years ago at 4, and then now they're paying him close to $20 million a year, and he's not even averaging 10 points a game career-wise. He's averaged like right at 10 points the past 2 years. But you would think from your number 4, spending a top 5 pick on someone, extending them the way that they did, giving them all that guaranteed money, that he'd produce a little bit more. But he was a 6-man coming out of college. Why are you spending a top 5 pick on a guy that's kind of coming off the bench, mostly from Florida State? And then to top it all off, like, they've been riddled with injuries. Lonzo Ball has hardly played. It feels like 2 years. It's been 2 years, maybe, since he's even played a basketball game, and he's owed a significant amount of money. I have their payroll up here. Yeah, Lonzo Ball, 21 million. Vucevic, who has just not lived up to what he was doing in Orlando when they traded for him. He's owed over $20 million. And then, of course, the big thing is Zach LaVine, 43 million. He's got this year and next year guaranteed. Then he's got a player option. That player option's almost $50 million. And like, I get it, the cap is going up insanely over the duration of that contract over the next 3 years, but I just don't see. I again, they're going to be late on getting rid of everyone, and when you're late on that, when you can't read it in the cards, and you try with a mediocre team to compete, you're going to get stuck in mediocrity. So maybe they win 30 games, maybe a few more like they did last season, and then they find themselves outside of the top 10, and even in drafts that aren't too deep, or even fairly deep drafts, they're going to find slim pickings, or they're going to have to pick really good outside of the top 10 to try to continue to compete. And they have not shown that they could do that, really, outside of Kobe White. They've not really hit on too many picks. There's some good ballers in there. I like a few of them, like shoot, where's he at? Ao, just I can't. I'm gonna
Ayo
butcher his
Dosunmu.
Dosunmu. Yes, thank you. Me and Chickster both notorious for butchering last names. So that was always a content idea from Trey, was to get the two of us to, whoever can guess this name first correctly wins, and it's like he would mediate and everything. But anyway, I'm confused at the direction that this team. It's not an exciting team to play. The fan base deserves so much better. And honestly, I think it's getting to the point where you're not going to get what you think you should get if you try to move on from a Zach LaVine, from a Vucevic, or whatever. But you've got to find ways to get those contracts off your books. And even if it's, getting just a few second round picks for them, you've just got to get them off the books, and you've just got to try and rebuild in some way. But the fear is going to be that they're waiting too late. They've already kind of waited too late to trade some of these players, and now they have massive contracts that they're signed to. And with the way that the salary cap is working now, teams aren't going to want to depart with first round picks, because they're so much more valuable, especially to competitors or contenders. And even if you're someone like the Boston Celtics, who are going to be like, if there's a fifth apron, they're going to reach it, because they're paying everybody on that roster. We've skipped all the other aprons and straight to the fifth apron here. They're restricted on the first round picks that they can even make in a trade, and no contender is going to want to give up picks for a 45, almost $50 million contract in Zach LaVine, when he hasn't really lived up to it. He's been fairly disappointing in his tenure in Chicago. The trajectory that he was on, he's kind of plateaued / fallen off. Can't carry a team. He can't be the number one guy. Kind of get that now, but he's being paid like a number one guy. So it's a tough spot. It really is, and I feel my heart hurts for all the Bulls fans out there.
I mean, yeah, he doesn't have a market like that. Just point blank, he just doesn't have a market. And like, it was hard for him to have a market in the previous, economy with just the one apron, and now with the second apron, teams being over the second apron, they're limited in what the flexibility and what they can do, and teams aren't willing to even get close to that second apron just because of the penalties that it can have if they pass it somehow. And so, yeah, trading for a guy who's making 43 million this year, 46 million next year, 50 million the year after that, it's a hard price to pay. And like, you can make a coherent argument that they were better without him last year. Like, Kobe White was really, really good when he was out. Like, believe it or not, Ayo Dosunmu was really good last year. That's just those two guys specifically were really good last year in the absence of Zach LaVine. And now you're getting Lonzo Ball back in the fold, which it just seems like he's going to play. I don't know if it's going to be on opening night or if they're going to try to ease him back in, but he's going to play this year. And so that adds another wrinkle to this. He's also making, 21 million this year. And so, like, that's not insignificant relative to what he's had to deal with the last couple of years with the injuries. Because, I mean, I think they won, I want to say it was like 46 games 2 or 3 years ago, and a big part of that was because of a hot start they got off to when they had Lonzo, and then he went down with injury and hasn't really played since. The Patrick Williams 90 million over 5. I mean, again, I 90 million now isn't 90 million 5 years ago, but at the same time, for a player who, again, just hasn't lived up to being, I think it was the number 4 pick or whatever it was, and then having this weird inconsistent role. Like, he has some good physical tools and whatnot, but it was just a weird fit there, and it hasn't really panned out. And now you're giving him like nearly 100 million. Like, that's, to me, that felt a little weird. The Vucevic extension last offseason where they just gave him 60 over 3, and it's just like, why? Like, what's the point of doing this? Like, there's really you're just prolonging the inevitable with contracts like this. And it's Reinsdorf, it's Arturis, or however the hell you say his name. Like, there's a lot of different people responsible for something for stuff like this. But to me, this just isn't a well-run organization. I'm glad they didn't actually fork over 40 million for DeMar DeRozan, because then it's just like, what exactly are we doing here? I can't believe that was even like, he even wanted 40 million, and then he looks at the market and everyone's just like, no, dude, we're not giving you 40 million. One, because we can't, and two, because you're definitely not worth it.
Yeah.
At least at this stage of your career. And so I don't know. I don't love this team at all. Again, I'm with you. I think this team has like a 30-win ceiling. I think they probably win around 25 games, maybe even less than that. Like, I just feel like they're going to bottom out. I probably said this the last 2 or 3 years. I think they're going to probably try to trade someone like a Vucevic. I don't think they're going to get off a guy like LaVine quite yet.
No,
but I think they're going to try to trade a guy like Vucevic. They may try to trade guys like, I don't know, Javon Carter. I know Ayo, he's going to be extension eligible next year. I don't know if they're going to give him that extension. Kobe White's extension eligible. I'm sure a team would fork over a lot for him on his inexpensive deal, and he's going to be extension eligible next offseason. Maybe they trade Jalen Smith, who they just signed. Maybe they're able to, like, some of these other guys. Like, there's not a whole lot to trade. There's not a whole lot you're going to get back, but you got to do something.
And then, like, what do they do with Josh Giddey? Again, like, I know we've kind of glanced over that, but that's another point guard into the mix when you've already got, like we said, Ball's coming back, Dosunmu, and then Javon Carter, even like deep off the bench, but he's still there. And he's a serviceable backup in the NBA. Shout out Javon Carter, one of the Grizzlies draft pick out of West Virginia. Shout out to him. Always root for former Grizz. But it's just, this is a terrible situation to be in, and I get it. They made their bed here, but we've talked about that they're a max 30-win team. Worst case scenario is like they're a 35-win team, and they find
I was gonna say,
and they find themselves outside of the top 10 again in the draft.
I want to say they have I think their pick is top 10 protected, so yeah, they can't fall outside the top 10. At least I believe so. At least I'm looking at Tankathon right now. They have. Yeah, top 10 protected top 10 pick to San Antonio because of the DeMar sign and trade. Again, if that's, I'm guessing that's correct or whatever. But anyways, yeah, this is going to be a team that I think is trying to tank, and obviously Cooper Flag sweepstakes. I mean, we saw what Atlanta was in a rare spot where they leaped like 10 spots or whatever they were a playing team, and then they leaped however many spots to get to number 1 overall. You can't guarantee Chicago or any other team in that spot would do the same this next year, but if they put themselves closer and closer to the number 1 overall pick, there's a higher likelihood that they actually get the number 1 overall pick, mathematically speaking. So yeah, I don't like this team at all. I don't know if there's much else to say about it. There's few, again, to your point, there's a few players that I like. Again, Kobe White, Ayo Dosunmu, the Josh Giddey thing to me just feels weird. Like, I still can't believe they didn't at least try to get one of those picks back. I get it. He's still, 22, 23 years old. And there's still room to grow, but at the same time, like he not an efficient shooter, not even a willing shooter, which is a problem in and of itself. He was played off the floor late in games, perhaps him in a situation, a lower pressure situation, or whatever word you want to use. Maybe you get some more out of him, but last year was a really bad year for him. And again, I think he'll be better, but I don't know if it justifies the move in its entirety, especially like no matter if they extend him or not. I just don't. Maybe he just does end up being really good in 3 or 4 years, but right now I just don't see that career path turning out that way for him. And he could still be like a serviceable player. But
yeah, and that just again, that just is like what's been happening with the Bulls when they draft. They take these flyer guys, but they're either not panning out or they'd be okay as like role players, but they're paying them like number 2, number 3 guys, and they are not playing like it, and they're drafting them so far ahead of where they could have got them.
Right.
It just I dislike seeing incompetence when it comes to sports, and this team is a definition of that, and it angers me. I don't know why it makes me mad so much, but it does.
I'm okay with the Buzelis pick. I think it was like a hometown kid. Like he's in his hometown, and like that's fine. I know.
Same with the Dosunmu. He's Chicago, right? Yeah.
Yeah, he went to Illinois. I think he'll be fine. I want to see more from his shot, but like he's athletic. I think he can play multiple positions in the front court. I know he's going to have to bulk up. He's still 20 years old, but he was definitely like a guy with an intriguing skill set, even though he wasn't able to shoot consistently well with G League Ignite. And I know G League Ignite, like they haven't really done a great job of developing NBA players apart. That's the reason why they're now extinct.
Yeah.
But like, again, I think within 2, 3, 4 years, like I think he can be like a serviceable rotation player, maybe even his rookie year, just because of the context that he's in. And again, this team's probably not going to be trying to win, so he might just be thrown in the fire late in the season for 20, 25 minutes. I also just feel bad for Billy Donovan.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know if this is going to be his last year there. I don't know what his contract situation's like, so maybe he's there. Maybe he's axed after this year, mid-year, or whatever the case is, and then they try to get their guy to really jumpstart this next phase or whatever of their organization, depending on what they do at the deadline. But I feel bad for him because I actually do think like he's not a bad coach.
Yeah.
But he's in a terrible situation.
Yeah. No, I wouldn't want the job, honestly, personally. The way that it's constructed right now, I would not want that job. And we joke all the time about Vendetta getting handed a professional franchise to take over. Chicago's one I'd be hesitant about right now, just because it's such a deep hole. It's like, again, what do you do with the Levine contract? What do you do with this pick that you owe to San Antonio? How's that gonna go? Because again, worst case scenario is that things click. They are a 35-37 win team pushing the play-in. They make the play-in, or it falls to 11 again this year, and then you lose your first round pick, and it's like you're the definition of mediocre in the NBA, and you don't have your first round pick.
And well, here's a spin zone for you.
Does it? Okay.
If they do like if they're on like a 30 or 35 win trajectory, just trade those, just sell high on those guys that got you there at the deadline.
Yeah.
So you can get more out of them than what you perceive.
I agree.
Than you would thought you were going to get before the season. Like that'd be the one way to do it.
I agree. Yeah.
Any parting thoughts?
If you know a Chicago Bulls fan, pray for them.
I actually do have a good friend, one of my former basketball teammates, who was a Bulls fan. And he was just like, "We've never been the same since Jimmy Butler." I was like, "Yeah, I agree."
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this team is. I don't know where exactly to pinpoint them in terms of their seeding specifically, but I don't think they're a playing team. So
no,
I'll say outside the top 10.
Same. I'll go with that too.
Thank you, Jackson, for joining me. Please go check out the Vendetta Sports Media content that we have. NBA, I mean, we're going to be having our NBA season previews on YouTube. Please go check those out while we have the opportunity. Please go like and subscribe. In addition to, please go check out our written previews on the site. We'll be having all 30 teams up by October 22nd, opening night. I don't know when the Bulls' first game is or who it's against, but they're playing at some point. Please go check all that stuff out. Obviously, we're in full swing with the NFL season, college football, Major League Baseball postseason's in full swing. NHL just started, I think, like 2 or 3 days ago. So please go check all that content out. Literally anything you can think of is probably on Vendetta Sports Media, or not probably, is on VendettaSportsMedia.com. So please go check all that out in addition to everything that we have on the YouTube channel. My name is Matt. This is Jackson. Thank y'all for watching. See y'all next time.